Ceausescu for your election as the president of this august assembly. We wish you all the success, and we will follow your leadership. And of course, we will use all that we have to help you, to help all of you here. I come here from Israel, and we very much appreciate and admire the European way. As you rightly mentioned, Mr. Ceausescu, Israel has been an observer in this august gathering since early 1950s, or 59 actually. And we believe that what you have achieved here in Europe, your morality, your believing in the human race, and in the future in hope, your values of liberté, égalité, fraternité, is something that we can all adopt also in the Middle East. We also commend Europe for achieving peace and prosperity and dignity and respect after many, many years of wars and bloodshed, and we look up to you to use your example also for our region as well. I would also like to mention here the appreciation we have for the rapporteur, Piero Fassino here, which is doing a great job, and we appreciate very much his professionalism, his dedication, and we hope to see him engaged for many, many more years with his guiding hands. I also would like to welcome and congratulate here my colleague from the Palestinian Authority, Minister Ashtia. It is also my pleasure to be here addressing you here with him as well. I will be remiss if I did not mention the delegation that we have here with me, three members, distinguished members of the Knesset, Mr. Yochanan Plesner from Kadima, Mr. Shlomo Mula from Kadima, Mr. Amnon Cohen from Shas. So there are two members of coalition, two members of the opposition. But let me be very clear and assure you all that although we differ on many, many issues, like in a vibrant democracy with the rule of law, but there is one thing which unites in Israel, opposition and coalition, and this is the desire for peace. For Israelis, peace is not just a strategic choice, it's a moral obligation coming from a very rich culture and history of more than 4,000 years. I believe that we have proven that we are willing to go the extra mile and take a lot of concessions in order to make peace. Only 32 years ago, we have given up 3 times the territory of our country to achieve peace with Egypt. Only in 1982, we have removed settlements, including a major town of Yamit, from the area of Rafah in the Sinai, in order to achieve peace. The same thing we did with Jordan, and we also contributed very, very valued and treasured resources like water that we are sharing with Jordan today. I believe the peace that we have today with Jordan and Egypt has changed the landscape in the Middle East, and indeed is the cornerstone of stability and also the direction for the peace and the future which we want to see in the Middle East. We are also united in Israel in our desire to make peace with our Palestinian neighbors. And we call upon the Palestinians to sit with us. We have been sitting too long alone in the table. When there is a call for immediate resumption of negotiations without precondition, face-to-face, direct, with honor and respect of each other, we are waiting. We have been on the one side of the table since the establishment of our government more than 9 months ago, and we are waiting and we are calling upon the Palestinians to join. There is no reason to put more obstacles that have not appeared before. We recall with respect the fact that there were intensive negotiations between the former government of Israel and the Palestinian Authority, with our former Prime Minister Olmert and with Mr. Abbas. They were intensive talks. Nobody talked then about any preconditions, no settlement or not anything else. In fact, they almost reached an agreement. Just November of 2008, Prime Minister Olmert repeated in a way the offer that in 2000, a former Prime Minister Barak gave to Mr. Arafat in Camp David. And that is almost full concessions, going not halfway towards the Palestinians, but going 95% their way. We have to remember there are two sides here. There are demands on the one side, but there are also demands on the other side. And if we want to make peace, concessions are required and requested from both sides. Unfortunately, on these two great opportunities, Camp David 2000 and Annapolis 2008, with an offer of 95% of all the requests of the Palestinians, and they did not take this offer, they rejected it, and this is why we are still sitting here today and debating where this peace could have been achieved already many years ago, and now we would have been embarked on a regional cooperations, on really moving to the future together, whereby the Middle East is the only region which is not kept abreast with the rest of the world, with globalizations, with sustainable development. We would like to be like you. We would like to be like Europe. We appreciate Europe, we admire Europe, and we know that what you achieved, we can achieve as well if both sides will come to the table. And this is something that we have to understand. Israel, since this government took over, made a lot of gestures to resume negotiations. There was this momentous speech of Prime Minister Netanyahu, Bar Ilan speech, which calls for a two-state solutions for two nations. And you have to remember that it is something that today most Israelis believe in. If you look at the peace process which started in Oslo in 1993, where you see where Israeli position was and where it is today, there is an evolution where we moved when Mivud to accept and agree to a Palestinian state, a sovereign, independent Palestinian state, and let me be clear, has never been in history a Palestinian state. It's something new, which we are happy to help as well. We have helped creating the Palestinian Authority. Mr. Arafat moved from Tunis to Judea and Samaria, to the West Bank, creating his own Palestinian Authority with full control over 98% of all Palestinians. 100,000 of people came with him. We have evacuated settlements from Gaza in a gesture, hoping to make a change in the region. And now, ladies and gentlemen, this government of center-right in Israel has frozen the settlements. I know, some say it's not enough, but let me tell you, Voltaire said that the enemy of the good is the perfect. And just remember that for us, for Israelis, it's an excruciatingly painful process to do what we do. Singling out the settlements is wrong, ladies and gentlemen. Just as we don't need to single out other issues. There is terrorism, there is incitement. Look what happens in Gaza. Unfortunately, in Gaza, which is half of the Palestinian population, is not under the control of the Palestinian Authority. Unfortunately, there was a coup there by Hamas. And Hamas, which is a terrorist organization, which is this body, and all countries in Europe list Hamas in the terror organizations. This is what the quartet called upon the Hamas to recognize Israel, to stop terrorism, and to accept all formally agreed agreements between the Palestinian Authority and Israel. When they do that, they will become a legitimate interlocutor. They have not done that so. So remember that Hamas does not represent Palestinian interest, rather Iranian interest. Today, Hamas is a danger to Mr. Ashtia. It's a danger to Mr. Abbas. It's a danger to the Palestinian Authority. It's a danger to the entire region. So when we are seeking your guidance, your help, all we ask is impartiality, not to look into things with prejudice, not to fall into the trap of old rhetorics and slogans, but look at the reality. And the reality is very complex. The reality is not settlements. There has never been peace when there was not even one settlement on the ground. And Israel, just as we have made concessions in the past, we are still saying we are making more concessions. We are willing to make even many more. But you need two, and you need to sit down and discuss. Today, last thing I want to mention is tomorrow we are marking the 65th day, 65th anniversary or year for the liberations of the Auschwitz ghetto, Holocaust Day, and throughout the world, decent countries, decent people will memorize this day that should never, ever repeat in history. So we want to say here that not all countries, unfortunately, will mark this day. And there is a country like Iran, which is a distinguished member of the United Nations, which not only will not memorize this day, it denies the Holocaust, denies the systematic killings of millions just because of their race, just because of their color of the skin, just because their beliefs. And they are preparing another one through their illegal nuclear operation, and also through trying to destabilize the entire region through terrorism, whether it's their proxies in Lebanon, Hezbollah, or Hamas in the Palestinian Authority, or Islamic Brotherhood in Egypt, or the Houthis in Yemen and Saudis, or Islamic Jihad everywhere else. And it is very important for this august body to remember that in order to remove a main obstacle, so we can really concentrate on peace, we have to remove the Iranian threat, which is not only a threat to the Middle East, but much beyond. Just as the Hamas and Hezbollah missiles can reach every point in Israel, the Iranian missiles can reach every point in Europe, and very soon every point in the world. So this is something that we also have to address when we discuss the situation in the Middle East. But the last word I want to say is, Mr. Muhammad Ashtiya, come over to the table, come and sit, no preconditions, with respect, as we talked in the past. We are willing to make more concessions. It is important for us, for our children, and our children's children. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ayalon, for your statement. You will have the opportunity to comment again at the end of the debate. Minister Steyer, I would like to recall that you were involved in Oslo peace process in 1991. And in 1998, you came to Strasbourg to take the part in the Council of Europe Roundtable on a partnership for cooperation and reconciliation in the Middle East. I also had the opportunity of welcoming you in my hometown of Antalya in March 2008 for the international workshop on cause of the conflict in the Middle East. We met again